Hello everyone, good afternoon. Can you hear me, guys? Okay, that's great. So welcome everyone to your to this afternoon's webinar. Okay, let me check one thing. I want to see it better to see the chat. Okay, guys. So I want to introduce myself. I'm Nicolas Perez. In this moment, I'm the academic coordinator at in UAG, and today I'm going to be your speaker. Okay. So you know more about me. I have mostly 8 years or more of experience teaching. Um, I have IELTS trainer certification, CELTA certification, TKT certification, and I have been working with Jamestown for about 4 years. I think this is my 4th year. Okay, so I see a lot of familiar names. Hey, Juan Camilo, Brian. Let's see if I remember anyone else from UAG. No, I don't remember anyone else from UAG. Welcome everyone for the people that is entering. Today, the topic is don't stop learning, okay? We are going to, okay, we have audio problems. For the rest of you, can you hear me well? Okay. Hey, Christina, I remember you. So yeah, we're gonna, okay, thank you. So in our agenda for today, it's going to be a very short session. And we are going to touch 3 points, okay? First, we are going to talk about the reason why people stop learning a language. We're gonna see why do you need to keep practicing a language, and finally how to keep practicing, okay? So before I give you my ideas, I would like you in the chat to comment your opinion. Why do you think that people stop learning a language? I will give you 2 minutes and you can give me some reasons that you may think about. So please comment in the chat. Why do you think people stop learning, stop practicing a language? Okay, thank you, Juan Camilo. Yep, we aren't constantly practicing or using it. Lack of speaking in our lives. Yep, we live in Colombia, that is not an English-speaking country. Okay, Daniela, but why do you think people stop practicing? That's important. That's an important point for later. But why do you think that people stop practicing the language? Yeah, normally we have priorities, no? Work, study, university, families sometimes. Let's hear another reason. Also true, there is not an obligation to do it, right? Yep, as I was saying, you can get pregnant or your girlfriend pregnant, or your wife, or your husband. So that can be a big responsibility, I would say. Dumar, very interesting opinion, yes. Sometimes people do not really get into the language, but they stop practicing, right? Many people study for a degree, for a diploma, and that's it. Fantastic. So generally, I can think about 3 reasons that we give ourselves, that we give other people on why we shouldn't practice or why we stop. The first one is time, right? The most common, in my opinion. I don't have the time to study. I don't have the time to practice. Also, I would say that people stop practicing because they don't have clear goals. You don't have clear objectives. As Dumar was saying, once you finish the course, once you finish your diploma, once you get your certification, you don't have a clear objective, right? So yeah, this is also a reason. And finally, or another reason in this case is because we come from a beginner level, right? And we start to rise in our scale, but there is a moment or there is a point in learning that we feel that we cannot advance more. We get stuck in the learning, okay? So we are going to talk and give you some information about uh, these three reasons on why people, generally speaking, stop learning a language, okay? Before we start, guys, the recommendation for everyone, if you have any questions about the information that I'm going to give you, please write in the chat comment, okay? And I have a person helping me in this moment. He will get the most relevant questions, and at the end, I will answer those questions for everyone, okay? So remember, if you have questions, please comment in the chat, and we are going to solve them. What about Elaine? Elaine is fine, yes, she's still living, thank you for asking. Jamestown got bigger since you graduated, so now we have morning coordinators and we have evening coordinators. So in this moment, I am the evening coordinators, but Luis Castro, I will say hello from you to Elaine, okay? All right, guys, so there is no time. Normally we have a lot of excuses for this, right? As you were saying, family, studies, work, responsibilities in your lives. Generally speaking, today we have very busy weeks. In your opinion, and I would like you to help me, what do you think is the solution? Or what do you think is a possible solution? If you don't have the time, how do you think you can solve this problem? Let's hear you in the chat. 1 minute. You could sleep less. That's a possibility. Not very healthy. Generally speaking, students sleep not very much. People that work a lot of times don't sleep. Jenny, I like the attitude. Interesting, yes. If you want something, you will find how to do it, right? So what would you recommend a person that says that to you? Oh, but I don't have time. Cristina has a very interesting opinion, plan, and Juan Camilo has the answer that I was looking for, and that's a routine. Okay, guys? You need to plan a routine, but not any routine, because there is people that think that because they can study more or they make unrealistic expectations about working until 2 in the morning, right? And that is not very realistic. That is not very possible for a normal person. However, if you plan a healthy routine, A healthy routine is based on your personal life. Everyone is going to have different responsibilities, different schedules, different uh, ways of living, right? So each one of you will have to find a routine that works for you. So the problem with this is that every student is not the same. In psychological pedagogy, we have that there are different types of learners and we can categorize them. We can give them a category in this sense. The general theory is that there are three types of learners. There are visual learners, there are auditive learners, and there are kinesthetic learners, which means that you use your body to learn, right? So there you have some examples, but if you remember a classroom in the school, you will probably remember who was a visual learner, who was an auditive learner, and who was a kinesthetic learner, right? The person or the student that never stopped speaking, or the student that always had beautiful presentations and beautiful notebooks. So this is the main theory. However, there are some people that say that there are more types of learners. Some people speak about social learners. Some people speak about solitary learners. Some people speak about logical mathematical learners. And some people talk about a combination of, because generally speaking, a person has one strong type of learning and then they complement with the other types, okay? So to get to know you better, I would like to do a little exercise, okay? I would like you to get a pen and paper to take some notes, okay? Because we are going to answer some questions very quickly. So in 1 minute, please take one paper, a notebook or something, and a pen. Juliana has never used a notebook. This is the opportunity to do it. Sure, yeah, you can use your phone. That's great. Okay, so the activity is very simple, very quick. We are going to, you are going to read some questions on the screen, okay? And I would like you to take notes and answer A, B, or C. For example, how can other people best interpret your emotions? A, through your facial expressions. B, from the quality of your voice. Or C, through your general body language. 5 seconds, please take notes. A, B, or C. Let's go with the second question. How do you manage to keep up with the current events? A, by reading the newspaper thoroughly when you have the time. B, by listening to the radio or watching the TV news. C, by quickly reading the paper or spending just a few minutes watching the TV. Again, 5 seconds. A, B, or C. Let's go with the next question. What sort of driver or passenger are you? A, you frequently check the rear view and watch the road carefully. B, you turn on the radio on as soon as you get in the car. C, you can't get comfortable in the seat and constantly change position. A, B, or C? How do you conduct business? A, by having face-to-face meetings or writing letters, emails, etc. B, over the phone because it saves time. C, by talking, while you're walking, jogging, or doing something else physical. How do you behave in meetings? You come prepared with notes and displays. You enjoy discussing issues and hearing other points of view. You spend a lot of time scribbling on paper absent-mindedly. Which do you prefer doing in your free time? A, watching TV or going to the cinema. B, listening to the radio, going to a concert, or playing any musical instrument. Or C, engaging in a physical activity of some kind. And the final question, what is your instant reaction to the word horse? Do you A, see a horse? B, hear a horse? C, feel the sensation of touching or riding a horse? So please answer the questions, and I would like you to count how many A's, how many B's, how many C's do you have, okay? So in the chat comment, I would like the people that got the majority of A's to comment. Who got the majority of the answers A? Juan Camilo, John, Cristina, Ana Maria. Okay. Okay. So we have one. Okay. That's an interesting quantities. Okay. Okay. So yes, the majority of people, like in your case, are visual learners. Okay. So the visual learners are characterized because they learn by visuals. So for example, this is the person that in class doesn't take notes. They learn by looking at the teacher, right? This is the person that uh, enjoys learning a language using movies or going to the cinema. So if you are this type of student, congratulations. That's a type of learner that is very common. Now let's see who got the majority of B's. For B's. Okay. I'm sorry, Hector, for the time. I cannot go back because the presentation is, the time is very short. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyone else? Yeah, right. So again, the auditive type, right? This is not very common. And this is the person that generally likes to watch videos, but because they listen to the information that they got. Again, they don't like to write many times. But how, on the other hand, they don't like to speak a lot. So they don't like to communicate their ideas. And finally, did anyone get C as their answers? who got the majority of C's? One person, two, three, four, okay? The majority, if you had the majority of that. Okay, Luisa, Camilo. So welcome to my club. We are kinesthetic learners, okay? This is normally the person that cannot be still in a place. Is the person that is always playing with something on their hands, right? Is the person that likes to do a presentation in front of the public because they like to express with their bodies, okay? So obviously, every type of learner will have to find a different strategy or a different routine that helps them. Before I was reading your comments, you were talking about watching movies, going to the cinema, listening to the radio. Some other people would recommend reading books, but these depends on what type of learner you are. Because if you are, for example, a kinesthetic learner and you try to study grammar for a long period of time, you will get very bored very easily and you will lose your motivation, okay? So important with this little exercise, guys, to adapt this information to your methodology and to your strategies, okay? Great. The second point is that we don't have a clear goal. Generally speaking, people don't have a specific objective, right? So why do you think, or what do you think is important to have when you want to find an objective? What is the most useful characteristic for a person to have? Intelligence, maybe? What do you think? Help me in the chat. Okay. Okay, specific times, deadlines, persistent, passion, very interesting. Yeah, the attitude, right? And what about if you want to have a specific goal, a specific objective? Where does the objective come from? Also organization, that's interesting. Anything else? Yeah, discipline, we are very close to the answer. All of these are very important characteristics. Brian is very, very close. And yeah, guys, you need to have a why. You need to have a motivation, right? Because I can be very disciplined, I can be very persistent, but if I study mathematics and I don't like mathematics, and my motivation is not to study mathematics, even if I have other positive characteristics, the results are not going to be the same, correct? Here we see that there are two types of people, people that like languages and people who don't like languages, right? And it's okay. Many people don't like to communicate. Many people don't like to speak, right? However, you need to find your motivation, and this is very personal, and this is going to be something that you need to find and you need to look for yourselves. For example, when I started to learn the language, I was in high school, and my motivation wasn't to be a teacher or wasn't to work in an academy. My motivation was to understand music, right? So generally speaking, you start with little goals and then you increment them. So before we continue, I would like to hear your motivations, guys. What was your motivation, or what is your motivation to continue studying English? Try to be short. One sentence is okay. I will give you 2 minutes to give me your, I will give you your, to give me your answers. For Ana Becerra, yes, this is a recorded video, so there will be an online version for you. The question is, what is your personal motivation? Why do you want to learn or continue learning English? I have a person that wants to be a translator. That's great. Connect with people. Interesting. Travel, right? That's a very common motivation. Learning about cultures, religion, characteristics. Interesting. To study in the States, travel to many countries, get a better job. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. A polyglot. We have a person that wants to be a polyglot. That's great. Some people, we have international business people, make cash. That's great. Nice. We have a mom, skills in general, fantastic. Okay. So the point when you don't have a specific goal is that you lose motivation. Okay. So the problem is, number one, you have your motivation. Number two, how do we make a goal? How do we make an objective, right? Because the ones that you are, the sentences that you are writing are motivations. They are your end goal, right? To travel around the world. But the problem is that, and this is a normal thing for people, we have objectives that are too big, that are not realistic for our lives. Let me explain that concept. Some people, when they plan and when they organize their lives, talk about a methodology that is called SMART goals, okay? A SMART goal is composed by 5 components. The first one is that the goal needs to be specific. Super important, right? So instead of saying, I want to travel around the world, that's a very general objective. A specific objective would be, I want to travel to Texas and live there for 5 years. I want to get a promotion in my job. That's a specific objective, right? The second characteristic is that it needs to be measurable, okay? If you cannot measure something, you will never know if you advance or if you don't advance. So, for example, I would need to study for an international exam, like the IELTS that you presented. You had a measurable object to get a level B1, to get a level B2, right? If you are in a professional environment, your objective would be to get a higher level, a professional level. So your objectives need to be measurable, quantifiable. You need to express them with numbers, percentages, or something that you can count. You need to be ambitious, people. Generally speaking, our big dreams are very, very non-realistic, but when we are thinking about every day, our goals are very small, no? I want to learn 5 verbs in 1 week. It's okay, but it's not very ambitious. So always think big, and even if you don't achieve the whole goal, you will learn more than what you initially were thinking, right? They need to be realistic. Don't get confused with ambitious and realistic. Realistic means that you need to adapt the goal to your personal lives. If you work 60 hours per week and your goal is to study 10 hours per day, it's a very, very non-realistic and impossible goal, right? So when I say realistic, I mean that is realistic for you, for your lifestyle, for your personal life. For example, I'm an evening person. I don't like the mornings. I don't like to wake up in the morning. So if my objective was, I'm going to get up at 6 in the morning to study, that is not going to be realistic for me. Why? Because I'm not a morning person. They need to be time bound, guys. This is also very important. Many people live many people live their dreams. What happened here? Many people plan, right? But they never have a specific time. Yeah, one day, yeah, in the future, in 10, no. Your objective should always have a time limit, okay? Even if you don't achieve the objective, again, you, for example, thank you, Paulo, you will not procrastinate on that objective, okay? So I want to show you an example of a SMART goal specifically in languages, okay? So let's imagine that you're studying languages and you want to improve. So you make a plan for the month, and that plan would look something like this. It is the last day of June, and I can now give a 5-minute speech about the jobs I've done in the past using the present perfect and past perfect. I can confidently use link words such as nevertheless, moreover, and even though to show logical continuity when describing past events. I use 5 new phrasal verbs to talk about my previous jobs, including work at, push through, and slack off. If we see this example, we can see that the example has the 5 characteristics of a SMART goal. Why? It's a specific goal. It's a specific goal because we are practicing specific components of the grammar, the present perfect and the past perfect. We are practicing specific components of vocabulary, linking words, and phrasal verbs, okay? So remember, don't plan on general things. I want to get better at my vocabulary. That's a very general goal. There are a lot of components in vocabulary. Also, we can see that is measurable. Why? Because you can, the objective at the end is to give a 5-minute speech, because you can count how many grammatical components you are going to practice, and you can count the number of phrasal verbs that you are going to learn, right? It's ambitious. It's ambitious because this is not simply, oh, I will learn 5 words for this month. That is not ambitious. Something ambitious is when you take grammatical components, you practice your grammar, vocabulary components, you practice your vocabulary, and also you practice your speaking, right? So in this goal that we propose, you are practicing 3 skills on your language, okay? So a goal should always be ambitious in the sense that you should always practice different components of the language, okay? A month you could focus on listening, a month you could focus on reading, but remember that there are many other components such as pronunciation, intonation, vocabulary, lexis, coherence, cohesion. So next time when you are planning hopefully something for your language, please be ambitious. Finally, this goal is realistic and it's time bound. Why? It's realistic because in 1 month, you can do all of this. In a month, there are 30 days. Let's imagine that you practice 20 minutes per day because you're very busy. It's an achievable goal. It's realistic. And also, it is time bound because there is a deadline, like you were saying. It's very important to have a deadline because that can help you to measure, even if you success, even if you don't success. But the important thing is that you can measure how was the performance, especially because I guess that the majority of you in this moment are studying alone at home, right? Because you're not studying in Jamestown anymore and because of the coronavirus. So it's complicated to make goals that work for individuals. Okay, guys? Finally, the other reason is that when you stop learning a language is because you get to a point where you get stuck in the language. Let's imagine the majority of you, I think, are on an intermediate level in this moment, and probably you feel that you cannot advance anymore, that you don't know how to study, you don't know how to get better in your language, right? So if you are here in this webinar, I imagine that you can communicate in a normal conversation. You can understand a movie if you repeat some words, but you have no idea how to improve and how to get better in that sense. This happens because when you learn something, and this applies to everything in your lives, there is always a learning curve, right? So at the beginning, when you start to learn a new skill, the beginning is always slow. When we started to learn English, the verb to be and the simple past, very complicated things, no, for a beginner. But there is a point when you start to accelerate very fast and you start to go very fast with your learning, right? And the curve goes up. However, there is a point when we call it in languages a language plateau, okay? This is when you're learning or you feel that your learning is not increasing anymore, okay? And this is something that happens to a lot of people in many different aspects of their lives. So the reasons for a plateau are generally psychological. We feel that we don't advance. We feel or we think that we are not getting better, right? So here I will give you some recommendations on how to overcome this problem. The first one, if you feel that you can't advance in your learning, go back to the basics, guys. In this moment, maybe you feel that you remember everything, but probably you don't. So a recommendation that I always give to students is to go sometimes, every 3 months, every 6 months, go back to the basics and study. Maybe you forgot some concepts. Also, get out of your comfort zone, guys. A lot of students that tell me, teacher, I can't get a B2, I can't get a C1. A lot of times is because they are in a comfort zone, right? They are, and they always study in an institution, they are familiar with the teachers in the institution, they always use the same methodology to practice, okay? So a recommendation that is very important is to get out of that comfort zone. Try to speak with new people, try new methodologies to learn the language. It's very, very important. Recommendation number 3, sometimes you need to forget the academic aspect of the language and focus on the social aspect of the language. Remember that a language in its core, right, in its basis, it's a tool that we have to communicate with other people. So many students forget this and they only have conversations with me about the simple present perfect and the irregular verbs and very specific concepts that are important for your language, but at the end of the day will not improve how you communicate with other people, okay? So go out, try to get in contact with natives, with foreigners, as someone said. Try to get a hobby using the language. If you like music, if you like movies, if you like books, even sports, sometimes you can complement and you can connect language with your social aspect and your social skills. As I was saying before, please mix it up. It's very important for you to mix your methodologies, mix the strategies that you use to learn. Because if you always use the same strategies and the same methodology and the same material, you will get stuck. And there is going to be a point when you won't be able to learn anything else. And finally, as a lot of people were commenting, persistent, guys. Many people give up very soon. I can't, I'm very bad with languages, this is not for me. The people that were in IELTS with me remember the excuses that always are given in class, right? But remember that this is only a psychological thing. You should be persistent, okay? So be patient in the long objective, be persistent in the micro objective, okay? So if your plan is to travel in 2 years, relax. You are going to travel in 2 years. But if your plan is to improve in the past perfect for this month, that's when you should get more persistent with your learning, okay? But the final recommendation and the most important recommendation that I can give you all is to relax, guys. take the time to congratulate yourselves. It's not easy to be at this point. Jamestown students always graduate from a B1 or from a B2 level, and they are not easy levels to get, trust me. So it's very important to always be positive with your learning, understand that is a process, and it's not going to happen in days, it's not going to happen in months, it's going to happen in a long time, okay? But many people, many students, many teachers even, they have this very negative conception of themselves learning, right? And this is a problem that a lot of you have, okay? Great, 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 guys. So before we go to the questions, I would like to recommend for non very common or not very normal language apps, right? Because you're always asking for resources, for books, for material, and the general recommendations are always the same: videos on YouTube, Duolingo. But in my opinion, there are other applications that can help you a lot learning a language. For example, I love to use Google Books, okay? If you don't know what is Google Books, is a tool in which you search for a book and you can read it online. Many times you will find complete books in any language, not only English, if you're studying another language. And again, you can connect a hobby such as reading with the language that you are practicing, okay? So please take the time and relax. Don't continue to read grammar all the time or practice with Cambridge books, right? There are many books about any topic that you like, and this is very important. This is one that is very interesting. It's called Music Speed Changer. This is an application for Windows, and like the name says, what it does is that you can take a song or an audio and you can change the speed of the audio. This is very, very interesting if you want to practice your pronunciation, to listen to songs and to practice singing, if you are into singing and you are a vocal or a verbal learner. And it's free, so you can use it a lot. I imagine that a lot of you like music, so this is a very, very good tool. Applications for your smartphone, yes, Duolingo, Busuu. There are many applications that are popular on the app stores, but in my opinion, many of them lack the component that is the most important for a lot of you, and it's the speaking component. Yes, you work on your vocabulary, you work on your writing, but the reality for the majority of you is that you learn a language to communicate, to speak with other people. So italki is a great application in which you will find other people, other real people that you can speak with. So let's imagine that you are learning English, so you can speak English with a person, and then you can teach some Spanish to that person for free. Also, there are paid tutors. So if you are very motivated to improve your language, you can get a private tutor, very experienced teachers that can help you to get better scores, okay? And finally, this is the most bizarre, the most strange of them all, a VPN. For the ones that don't know, a VPN is a tool that, first of all, helps you to not get hacked on your computers, to protect your private information, okay? But talking about languages, this type of applications, because there are many, can help you to change the country of your IP for your computer. In normal words, this means that, for example, if you connect to internet now and get to Netflix, you will have a Colombian Netflix with Colombian shows and the Colombian selection of Netflix. But let's imagine that you want to check out what is going on in Australia. With a VPN, you can change your IP and make make Netflix think that you are in Australia, not in Colombia. So what happens is that you will get content from that country. This is very, very interesting with platforms like Netflix, Hulu, HBO, because in every country they change the selection. In some countries they don't offer content. And even if you use Google to search, you will find content or material related with the country, okay? So very interesting for people who want to travel, very interesting for people who want to learn about culture, okay? The majority of VPNs are free until a certain point, and then you will have professional plans, of course, but the majority of people will have no problems with a normal, a free plan. Okay, guys? So until now, thank you very much for listening to me. We are going to have some minutes. I will give you 4 or 5 minutes, and I would like you to write any comments, any questions that you may have from today's webinar, okay? And we will try to answer them all for now. So please, 4 minutes, ask any questions, any comments that you may have. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the comments. They're asking for the other teachers. Yeah, Amit is well. He's a father now. Very interesting question from Luigi. Can we access to virtual clubs? Yes, of course. Remember that as part of a Jamestown community in this moment, you can access virtual clubs without any problems forever, right? David asked me a very interesting question. Can you give me some advice on how can I study for TKT? Thank you for asking, David, because actually TKT, for the ones that don't know, it's a teaching certification, okay? So it's a certification similar to your IELTS, but instead of certificating your language level, it's going to certificate your teaching skills, okay? So in this moment, Jamestown is offering a TKT program in which you have classes similar to the IELTS training, and also you will have practice classes with Jamestown students, okay? So I would start from there if you don't have a lot of information. However, any teaching book will help you to get the theory for that examination, okay? Cambridge can help you, Richmond can help you. If you look books from Pearson, they also have a very good selection on this kind of material, okay? What book do you recommend for an A2 level? Very interesting question. A2 is what we call an elementary level, right? So at that level, it's recommended to read books that don't have a lot of technical vocabulary. The majority of people suggest to start reading children's books, such as Snow White, such as Cinderella, right? Stories that are for children, stories that have a very, very simple language, okay? However, my recommendation would be to connect your skills and your hobbies with the reading. So the idea would be that if, for example, you like computers, you can buy a book for basic teachings or basic an introduction to the computers, and you can complement, you can learn about your hobby, and you can also practice your language, okay? A great example of these books is the yellow, horrible books that are for everything for dumb people, right? Everything for dummies, cooking for dummies, Excel for dummies. So that's a very good type of book for A2 level. Yes, remember that you can access to the virtual clubs at any moment. You just have to communicate with Jamestown. The thing is that now we have a new platform. So maybe you will need to get a new password and a new user because we changed the platform. We improved the platform. From Catherine, thank you. When is the next meeting? Very good question. Until now, we don't have specific information, but I understand that the idea is to continue creating content for graduates and for the public in general, so you can have something to do in this emergency situation that we are living. Juan Camilo Vergara is offering some help. Z library, interesting. Thank you, Juan Camilo. That's a tool that he is offering. Thank you, Miss Munoz. I remember you from the course. Great. Any other questions related with the recommendations or the strategies that we talked today about how not to stop learning a language, the importance, right, of not stopping? Okay, guys, so I think until now, no one else has questions. From Jamestown, we want to thank you all for your attendance, okay? Remember that we are on social media. You can contact us on social media if you need any information. On the Jamestown page, there will be also a lot of information. I have a question from Lina. Any strategies when we read a book in English? Where can I start? Interesting question. This depends on the type of learner that you are. There are people that read books and they concentrate on the vocabulary. So they underline and with colors, they analyze the book. There are visual people that read the book and they start to imagine what is happening. The general strategy that I would give you is to start reading the book. A lot of people make a lot of excuses. I don't understand. There is vocabulary that is very difficult. But if you don't start, you are never going to find out what are the problems and how can you improve. From John, how can I get the new user and password to have access to the new platform? Yeah, you will need to contact reception, I think, because they can give you the information. To be honest, I don't really know if they give you access to the platform or they activate the code. So because I'm not in that department, so I wouldn't know, to be honest. But in reception, they can give you more information, more specific information. All right, guys. So if there are no more questions, thank you all for your company, okay? See you on another opportunity. And from Jamestown and from myself, thank you very, very much for your time, okay? I hope you have a fantastic day and see you around.